What's up? It's Andy Grammer with Jag.
Hi, this is Carly Rae Jepsen, and you're listening to Jag.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Jonas hanging with Jag.
This is Heather Knox with the hottest Jag I've ever seen.
Ryan Seacrest with Jag.
It's B.O.B. checking in with my homie Jag. So much swag with my homie Jag.
It's the Jag Show podcast.
All right, let's get right into it. A lot of great resources for podcasters in today's episode, but first I want to come back to the debate about podcasting versus broadcasting. Now, as a former radio guy, I've spent a lot of time on this topic, and for a lot of people in podcasting, the fear is that these large radio corporations are going to elbow their way into our space. For me, as a former radio guy, I worry about these large corporations like iHeartMedia, Entercom, and others, that they're going to do what they did to radio, which is to come in, put profits ahead of product, and make that product watered down and often unlistenable. The reason I bring this debate back up today is a couple examples I've seen in the last week. Again, back to these two largest radio companies in the country. iHeart has furloughed most of its non-essential employees, a lot of DJs working from home, but guess what? They launched a new podcast. Going to have commencement speeches for the class of 2020 from big celebrities like Chelsea Handler, Eli Manning, Hillary Clinton, Jimmy Fallon. So there's that. Meanwhile, Entercom this week put out a press release bragging about their podcasting numbers being up. I wonder how that hit folks like Chuck Edwards, who was doing mornings for 20 years here in Detroit on the country station WYCD. He got popped a couple weeks ago. Or Mistress Carrie and Mike Shue from WAAF in Boston, 50-year rock station, gone because it got sold to a Christian company for $10 million so Entercom could help their bottom line. Or Nancy Quill, gone from Magic 106.7 in Boston, who's been there about as long as I've been alive. K-Rock's morning show in LA, gone. But guess what? Their podcasting numbers are up. Various estimates have radio revenue down about 90%. And yes, a lot of it is because of the coronavirus, but a lot of it has to do with institutional problems that predate this, which I can save for another time. But bragging about your podcasting numbers as the crux of your business is falling apart is kind of like saying, well, yeah, my house is on fire, but look at the cool new siding I put up. One of the big thought leaders in the podcast space, Evo Terra, commented this week, I've got a link to the article in my show notes, talking about broadcasters who get laid off from their gig and sit home in front of their internal laptop mic and just kind of, hey, look, I'm doing a podcast now and I'm out of work, but just reminding you that I'm still here. He kind of railed against them. I understand what those radio DJs are doing. I've been that radio DJ, but just making a podcast a bastardized version of your radio show completely misses the point on what a podcast is all about. Podcasting is more than radio's leftovers. Sorry, Bob Pittman. All right, now that I get all that off my chest, all the negatives gone, onto the positive, a lot of great resources, as I mentioned, for podcasters that have come out this week. The fine folks at Podcast Movement, the best podcasting event on the planet, they've put out a guide to help answer that age-old question, what microphone should I use? There's a million answers to this question, but what's cool about this guide is that there's really detailed information about the different microphones and even video demonstrations of the microphones. Really good article if you're trying to pick out a microphone. That's also linked in my show notes today. And speaking of those fine folks at Podcast Movement, they've also got a nice piece on popular side hustles for podcasters. A lot of stuff that you can do from home that's good for your skill set as you try to make ends meet during this time. Podcast Business Journal this week has a nice roundtable article talking to big names in podcasting about what to do with all this conflicting data about the effect on podcasting of COVID-19, advertising revenue, streams, and downloads. There are a lot of conflicting numbers out there, so some of the most respected names in podcasting have chimed in with their analyses of these numbers. Really good piece. Next weekend, April 25th to 26th, is going to be a virtual podcast festival. It's going to raise money for COVID-19 relief. It's called Podapalooza. The website is podapalooza.org. And essentially, it's a festival where they're going to release podcast episodes through an app over the course of the weekend. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but great idea to raise money for COVID-19 relief. And it's what I love about podcasting. It's somebody thinking outside the box and trying to do something different and keep this medium so inventive and so forward-thinking. Again, I don't know if it'll work, but I love the creativity. A nice article from New York Times this week reminding us that Facebook, Netflix, and YouTube consumption are all up on desktop, and a lot of them are down on mobile, so keep that in mind as you produce your podcast. A lot of your listeners, more than usual, they might be listening on your hosted website or on an embedded player somewhere on their PC as opposed to on their favorite podcast app. Finally, Kim Kardashian apparently launching a podcast. I don't really care, but I'm just mentioning Kim Kardashian so I can put her in my show notes and hopefully help my SEO. As always, if you're looking to start a podcast, no matter where you live, I can help you with it from A to Z, completely remotely. All my contact info in the show notes. You can go to my website, jagindetroit.com. You can find me on social at jagindetroit, or send me an email, jag@jagindetroit.com. Have a great weekend, assuming this is a weekend now because we can't even tell anymore. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you next week with a really big name interview coming on Tuesday.